I have predicted every lineup for every game in Game Week 38, gone through every press conference to get the motivations of every team as well. Welcome to FPL, mate. My name is Dan. It's Game Week 38, and therefore it's time to lock in those final decisions for the final time this season. Right, guys, I have to admit I've been a very busy boy this last 24 hours because I want to make sure you guys can finish off this season in the strongest way possible and have all of the information you need. So we've gone through every press conference and we've seen exactly what each manager, what their motivations are, what they are likely to do with their teams. Are they likely to rotate? Can we expect a lot of goals? Maybe not so many goals in which games as well. So we're going to go through every single team for Game Week 38, but we have also got timestamps in. So if you do want to skip to certain teams, that's absolutely fine. But I would recommend you go and listen to every single one that I'm going to talk about today, because it is going to give you information you might not have seen coming. So yes, we will be doing that. After that, we'll be having a look at some of the goal and clean sheet projections for this Game Week 38. We'll have a look at the goal scorer odds, and we'll give a little final message at the end of the video as well. So lots to cover today, guys. Let's get started. So we're going to do this fixture by fixture, starting off with Bournemouth versus Leicester, and this is what we know about Bournemouth right now. So basically, this is the situation. Iraola in his press conference has suggested that top 10 is the target finish. Of course, Bournemouth are currently 11th. They can finish as high as 9th, but they will be looking to secure that top 10 finish with a win. They will select players to help them win the game, and also we've seen that Howson, I know it looks like he is going to be moving away from Bournemouth within the next week or so, but he has said that he wants to play in his final game for Bournemouth. So therefore, we've put together a pretty similar lineup to the lineup we saw last week for Bournemouth, who played against Man City, this time against Leicester. There are some players who are maybe more doubtful than others. Kluivert, for example, we could see Brooks come in here instead of Kluivert, and we could see maybe some rotation in some of the other positions, but we're expecting a pretty strong lineup actually for Bournemouth as they do look to achieve their top 10 finish. Looking at Leicester, we're expecting the squad to be similar to last week, according to the press conference, but Vardy has opted out of this game, and Daka is seen as a similar alternative that can just slot in and provide a very similar role. Van Nistelrooy also feels that Leicester are finally playing well, and his vision is finally clicking, which I think I agree with to a degree. Leicester have looked a little bit better over the last few weeks, and also he's a little concerned about his future at the club, so could he be gunning for a win here? Maybe. I think all managers want to win games, but with this kind of squad, is that going to be possible with Bournemouth also looking to secure the win in this game? No real changes to this team. Once again, we've got Samari in here, but we could potentially see Skip come in that position. But aside from that, I think the lineup for Leicester is going to be pretty strong, pretty predictable right now, as Van Nistelrooy looks to finish the season strongly to try and secure his place maybe into next season. For Fulham, Silva has said that he will treat this game like any other game. You know, he is not going to change the tactics, anything like that. He did, however, admit that this game may be a bit more emotional than usual, but again, as such, we're expecting a pretty strong team for Fulham at home against Manchester City, and maybe trying to play tactically to try and beat Man City. That could involve playing with some runners in the team, players that can put it up a good defensive work rate, and we could see players like Traore come in, who obviously is going to be really good on the counter attack there. So that is definitely a possibility that we might see. Other players that could come into the team, we could see Wilson maybe play, Sessegnon, Willian, maybe his final game for Fulham could be coming into this team as well. Smith Rowe, don't really fancy him for this game in particular, and I think Robinson maybe some doubts because he is carrying some injury issues right now, so we could see Sessegnon in that position. But Fulham obviously 10th right now. They'll probably also be looking to secure that top 10 finish with a win, but against Man City, that is going to be tough. For Man City, Pep Guardiola has said that they need 1 point to get themselves that guaranteed Champions League place, but still they will be looking for a win in this game. That is what he said. Of course, the highest possible finish for Man City is technically second, but realistically, they're looking to secure that third slot with a win, even though they do just need 1 point. He did also single out Haaland as a player who will help Man City qualify for the Champions League, so that does hint that Haaland is going to be starting that game. Rodri is not ready. Apparently, he will be on the bench once again, but he's not ready for a start. So we're probably predicting a similar lineup to the one we saw last week. We might see Gonzalez come in instead of the suspended Kovacic. Gundogan probably going to play here as well. Maybe one possible change is maybe Gvardiol into centre-back. We might see a slightly different left-back there, possibly. But generally speaking, I think we're going to see something very similar to the game against Bournemouth, which was obviously a nice win despite 10 men for Man City. For Ipswich, McKenna has hinted, or mentioned really, that there is an illness running through the camp right now. A lot of players are sick apparently, and as such, they've actually had to have a couple of days off, which is quite interesting. He did mention that the team is committed to giving the fans a good send-off at the end of their Premier League season, but I think there could be some players maybe missing from this lineup if there are, you know, some players who are ill, which is maybe a little worrying for Ipswich ahead of this final game. Of course, Ipswich have nothing to lose. They are in 19th right now. The best case scenario is they finish 18th. Is there going to be some pride there at stake? Possibly, but it could be a rotated lineup, and I expect some players like Luongo, final game for Ipswich maybe to play. And aside from that, a lot of the players that Ipswich will have for the following season, for next season, should be good for a start this week. Really, Broadhead, Luongo and O'Shea, probably the most rotation risk, but I'm sure not too many people are picking Ipswich players for their FPL teams. For West Ham, Graham Potter has said that it's important for West Ham to finish above Manchester United and Spurs, and even has his eye on moving up a place in the Premier League up to 14th. He also said that rotating his team doesn't make sense. So he was asked specifically, will you be rotating your team? Will you be making changes? And he basically said no. I think the one change that could possibly happen is that we might get Fulkrug come in and play a striker, and maybe one of the more defensive midfielders maybe drops out, and Lucas Paqueta goes back into midfield. So we could see a slightly more attacking lineup than maybe last week, only slightly, but generally there's not going to be wholesale changes. There's going to be a lot of players playing again in this game, which is going to mean Areola probably playing in goal for West Ham, and probably we'll see Bowen, you know, ripping it up on the right wing. If you want to take a chance on Bowen against Ipswich, could be a nice opportunity against this illness-stricken Ipswich side. So Liverpool will be preparing for their trophy lift at the end of the season for this home game against Crystal Palace. So a lot of people are predicting Liverpool will be quite strong in their lineup this week. Slot has mentioned that Trent will, he hasn't decided if he will play or not, but he does deserve to celebrate with the team. So maybe Bradley is going to come in at right back, but Gomez was specifically mentioned as someone he wants to get minutes for. So could be Bradley at right back, could be Trent, could maybe even be Gomez at right back, or maybe in the centre back position. I think Virgil van Dijk is pretty secure to start, and I would say that Salah, Luis Diaz and maybe Gravenberch are probably the most likely players to start again in this game. However, we could see some changes in some of the attacking positions. Diogo Jota, maybe Darwin as well, could come in for Cody Gakpo, but Luis Diaz and Salah look like they're secure. Harvey Elliott, obviously great performance last game week as well. Could he see some minutes possibly in the central attacking midfield position instead of Szoboszlai? So just a warning on that. But generally speaking, Luis Diaz, Salah and Van Dijk are probably the players we're most looking at from an FPL perspective, as Liverpool look to wrap up the season with an exciting game against Crystal Palace, who are another team who are on the beach. We know Liverpool have been holidaying recently, not really training, but I think it's probably a similar situation with Crystal Palace. So on the other side of that fixture, all of the Palace staff were celebrating in Ibiza this week. Party time after that FA Cup joy. Glasner has credited the spirit and mindset of the team to stay motivated, really suggesting that he doesn't need to motivate this team. This team is already motivated. They already know what's up. And he also said that nobody wants to see a friendly in this game and that they will be going for the win. So it's going to be an interesting game for sure between Liverpool and Crystal Palace, and we're expecting a lot of goals. But what we are maybe not expecting is any guaranteed minutes for Palace. There could be some rotation. Now, I think players like Eza, for example, I think is good for minutes considering he didn't play in that midweek fixture. Mitchell should be good with not too many options at the left back position. Chilwell is apparently ill. So is Nathaniel Klein, which could help some of the other defenders. But in attack, it is anyone's game. It could be Mateta, could be Nketiah, who scored 2 goals at the weekend. Ismail Assar played the whole game most of the game against Wolves in the midweek. So is he maybe due a rest in this game? Possibly. Could some of the younger players come in and play in this final parting game? It's going to be really, really difficult to predict teams like Liverpool and Crystal Palace going into this final game week of the season. I've given it my best go. I've maybe gone a little safe on the lineup, but I do expect there to be a few changes in here. Of course, Gay, Wharton are ruled out for this game. They are unavailable. They're injured. So that is going to be a minor downgrade for Palace, but still, I'm excited for this game, probably more than any other game in the Premier League from a kind of a neutral's perspective. For Manchester United, playing at home against Aston Villa, and Amorim has said that his team is still hurting from that Europa League final loss. He refused to be drawn into transfer speculation though, and says his focus was on Sunday on that game against Aston Villa. Difficult to predict a lineup again, but I've gone with my best guess. We know there are some players who are either unavailable or injured, so we could see some young players come in. We could see Obi come in, for example, and play as the striker, but I've gone for a lineup similar to this. Garnacho unhappy with his minutes recently, so maybe that gives him some. I expect Ahmad to play. Mainu hopefully will get some game time as well. And Maguire and Masraoui should be safe, but could be Yoro, could be Lindelof in defence there. I'm not really too sure. Goalkeeper, also a bit of rotation potential there. Not sure if it's going to be Onana, but I've put Bayındır here as the goalkeeper. Manchester United have a highest possible finish of 14th. So, yeah, there's still a chance for them to do something in this game, but it's going to take some effort to get themselves back out the trenches and really going for it again. Aston Villa will be looking to take advantage of a downbeat Manchester United team, and Emery has suggested that Villa will be motivated but play with respect and discipline. So I don't think this is going to be a chaotic game like we might see in some of the other fixtures. A lot of goals, a lot of drama. It will be more a pragmatic approach from Emery as he looks to secure a win and get that Champions League position. It is out of Aston Villa's hands. Even goal difference is not really going to help them, and therefore we could see that Aston Villa really gunning for yet another clean sheet. So clean sheet points, very nice potential for that against Manchester United, but can we expect a lot of goals? Do we need a lot of goals? As long as Watkins and Rodgers are involved, I think a lot of you guys are going to be happy. But Aston Villa really need to secure this win, and therefore we could see a more pragmatic play in this game. Okay, perhaps the one a few of you guys have been waiting for with the Alexander Isak situation. So this is what I've got from Eddie Howe. So Isak hasn't trained as of Friday, but he still has a chance to play. His injury that he has right now is an ongoing issue that he has had for, maybe a month or so now, which maybe has reflected in some, slightly weaker performances from him. He is due to have surgery in the summer to try and recover from that injury that he is carrying right now. But last game week, he was kind of not in the squad as a precaution because that injury issue that he does have right now was flaring up. Is he going to be available for this weekend? Well, Isak has not trained and played before, so I think he does have a chance, particularly as I don't think Wilson was too impressive last week. And this is a must-win game for Newcastle to guarantee themselves that Champions League football. So therefore, Isak, even if he isn't fully fit, may be called upon for this game. And Newcastle should be going again with that 5 at the back formation as they look to secure that win against Everton. So Murphy back in the right wing-back position, allowing Barnes and Gordon to play a little bit further forward. So this is what we're looking at for Newcastle. Isak is a bit of a mystery, but actually Newcastle look good for a clean sheet here, certainly against an Everton side that maybe are less motivated than certain other teams. So Everton away against Newcastle, and they have literally nothing to play for. They are position locked in 13th, and therefore we could see some of the younger players given an opportunity. Moyes did say that Everton will aim to put on a good show, but, no real mention of, gunning for that win against Newcastle. So could, again, like I say, see some young players come in. There are also some injury issues right now. Obviously, no Tarkowski. That's been the case for a couple of weeks now, but there's also no Branthwaite and no Coleman, which means we're expecting Keane and O'Brien to play at centre-back, with Ashley Young or maybe Nathan Patterson playing at right back. I also think some players like Eric Boonham has a good chance of some minutes this week. We could also see the likes of Calvert-Lewin or Chomiti get some minutes at the striker instead of Beto, but yeah, really not 100% sure on this one. There's a variety of different things that could happen. When a team has nothing to play for, we expect rotation, and I am expecting rotation from Everton, so difficult to call this one. For Nottingham Forest at home against Chelsea, another team that absolutely must win this game to get themselves a Champions League place, and realistically the highest possible finish for them is 4th. Now Forest of course do have the advantage of it being somewhat in their hands. If they can beat Chelsea, take some points away from them, then that is going to give them a real boost in their chances to get Champions League football. But this is what I've got from Nuno, and Nuno Espirito Santo, he never really gives anything away in his press conferences, and it's the same again. He did, however, say that this is a normal week for Nottingham Forest. Nothing is going to change, and he plans for the team to play their way they always do. So that suggests not really too many changes going into this week. There could be a small change. Hudson-Odoi is now available, so maybe that is going to give him an opportunity to come in and change the formation back to what Forest have been playing for most of this season. But yeah, if there's not going to be much change in the way Forest play against Chelsea, then we're expecting again, I want to say pragmatic, pretty negative style of football from Nottingham Forest. And maybe as the game goes on, if they can't get any joy against Chelsea, at that point, they might need to play a bit more attacking, since they do need to beat Chelsea to have any chance really of getting a Champions League place. They need to win this game. So we'll see. Nuno says there's not going to be any change, and they're going to be pretty defensive generally, but maybe that could change as the game goes on. Chelsea will have Sancho back, which could mix up the starting lineup a little bit. Maresca has said that we need to rotate and change things ahead of the Conference League final on Wednesday, because Chelsea are obviously, they still have a cup final to play, but maybe this game is more important. So we're expecting a pretty strong lineup. I think because there might be some changes between this squad and the Conference League squad, Lavia, who is ineligible to play in the Conference League, could suggest that he is going to start this game, which would put Caicedo in the right back position, and Reece James, who has been doing some individual training this week, maybe drops out of the team. So something like this, I'm probably expecting Sancho back in, Neto as the striker, Lavia in the midfield position with Caicedo at the right back position. I think Tosin has a good chance of playing instead of Chalobah as well, for his aerial presence against someone like Chris Wood. So this is my Chelsea lineup. Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with that one. Southampton face Arsenal, and Rusk says that Southampton will be looking at some of the younger players for this game, so rotation expected. He also spoke about building some momentum going into next season, so that could be that they leave out some players who are leaving. So Bednarek, Walker-Peters, again, he's ill anyway, by the way. So yeah, some changes expected for Southampton. I put a pretty boring standard team out for you guys here, but maybe some of the younger players come in and play some minutes, like Kai Sander, Jay Robinson. I think they have a good chance of playing. There's no Harwood Bellis. There's no some of the other players as well. So therefore, interesting stuff from Southampton. Could be rotation, could play into the favour of Arsenal, as they are, again, like Everton, position locked to 20th. So Arsenal technically could drop into 3rd, but it's so unlikely to happen that we're not even really going to consider that. But this is what Arsenal are aiming to do. So Arteta emphasised the desire to keep a clean sheet in this game and have the best defensive record, giving Raya that Golden Glove award for the 2nd season running. So it's going to be be maybe a defense first priority for Arsenal, but playing against the likes of Southampton, particularly if they're rotating, could mean that goals come even if you are playing defense first. He also has suggested recently that Nwaneri is due more minutes towards the end of the season, so I think there's a good chance Nwaneri comes into this Arsenal starting lineup. It's also the final game for Arsenal for Jorginho and Tierney, so we could see Jorginho play in the defensive midfield position. We could see Tierney play at left back, but I think a lot of these positions there's going to be some rotation. Is it going to be Marino or Havertz up front? Could Trossard play there? Could Martinelli play in the central striker position? Possibly. Is it going to be Saka on the right wing or Nwaneri there? If Nwaneri starting, what does that mean for Ødegaard? There is a lot of question marks actually around Arsenal right now and how they're lining up, and lots of different fans, lots of different journalists are actually making very different predictions for that lineup. But what should be secure is Raya in goal, Calafiori and Kivior in defence, as well as Ben White in the right back position. So yeah, defence looks good. In attack, there is a lot of risk here. There really is. So a lot of people are going to be hoping for early team news for Arsenal. We do sometimes get it from Arsenal, to be fair, and maybe that can help answer some questions, because there is a lot of available players for Arsenal in the attacking positions right now. A lot of players have returned from injury, and therefore things could be mixed up as Arsenal look, good for second place already. If things do somehow go terribly wrong against Southampton, maybe Arsenal would be looking to bring some players off the bench, some of their stronger players off the bench if they have benched them. Yeah, it's difficult to say. I say that as an Arsenal fan. I wish I could predict this one, but I'm really struggling. For Spurs, most of the press conference was about the Europa League win. Spurs had a trophy parade on Friday with some players seen drinking, and I'm partial to a drink myself, but what I will tell you is the hangovers, they no longer last just in the following morning. They often creep into the following day. And if that's going to be the case, will there be some hungover Spurs players? We are expecting mass rotation from Spurs. Some players are going to have to play in this game, as well as having played in the Europa League final. I think Brennan Johnson, for example, I think comes in at right wing. But there are a couple of players who are name checked as players who will be rested. So Heung-min Son and Christian Romero have been stated as players who will not play in this game, and there's probably going to be a couple more as well. So we're going with a lineup something like this for Tottenham Hotspur, but yeah, we're expecting big rotation, a pretty weak squad put out by Spurs, which could play into the hands of their rivals Brighton. So for Brighton, Hurstler has said that we will see an unchanged squad from last weekend. I don't know if that necessarily means unchanged 11, but certainly an unchanged squad. No new injuries, no new returnees. We'll also, I think if there's going to be one change, I would say Mitoma, if he is available, will come in for Adingra and play in the left wing position. But Mitoma is not fully fit right now, or certainly last game week he didn't seem fully fit even when he came on. So I think this is probably good news for Welbeck, because probably the biggest breaking story around Brighton this week is Joao Pedro. There was a training ground bust up, and that means that Joao Pedro is going to be out of the team, out of the squad for kind of internal disciplinary reasons. Joao Pedro might even be leaving the club in the summer. So no Joao Pedro, which means Welbeck leading the line on penalties. This is an important game for Brighton. Finishing in 8th gives them a chance of a Conference League place. So therefore, we're expecting a strong, mostly unchanged team for Brighton. So Danny Welbeck against Spurs, who will be rotating, could be pretty interesting indeed. I would definitely consider going there. So Wolverhampton Wanderers, this is an interesting one. So Strand Larsen is a major doubt ahead of this game, but Pereira has previously said that Cunha can't play as a striker. So who's going to play up front? Who's going to play as a striker? That is a bit of a mystery. He also kind of suggested that Wolves need to prove that they are still mentally focused on the Premier League, as they weren't really focused in game week 37. So I think compared to a lot of the press conferences, and maybe this is just Pereira, the way he speaks, but he seemed a little bit more downbeat on the motivations of his team compared to a lot of the other teams from the other press conferences I saw. So maybe a stronger lineup than the one we saw in game week 37 to try and get some kind of result in the final game. It has been a difficult run of games for Wolves recently. So, who's going to be playing? I think a pretty strong defense. Attack is a bit of a mystery. Cunha, is he going to come back into the starting 11? Very possibly. Guedes as the striker, possibly. Maybe Chan instead. Monetsi, does he come back into the attack, or could we see Sarabia play again? Bellegarde is also a player who could come in these kind of positions as well. So I'm pretty happy with the defense and midfield, but the attack, a little bit more of a mystery for Wolves ahead of this fixture. Of course, Cunha, with him being off in the summer, leaving the club in the summer, is he going to be prioritised for a game? It depends how much Wolves want to win this game, really, and how much Pereira wants to put his strongest lineup out. But, you know, I'm not super convinced by Wolves at the moment, so we'll have to see what happens there. Of course, that is going to be an advantage for Brentford. The only injury doubtful Brentford is Coyote at right back. Aya has been playing with the youth team, the under-21s, under-23s this week. So there's a good chance that he is available to deputise. But I think Coyote is probably going to play ahead of him. Mostly unchanged for Wolves, for Brentford. So what we've seen from Frank is that Brentford have the same starting 11 for the previous 5 game weeks now, so that they are pretty much playing the same 11 every single game week, and Frank has confirmed that Mbeumo and Wissa will be starting. I think we already knew that, to be honest, Thomas, but yeah, if you needed any confirmation for Wissa and Mbeumo, they will be starting. But it looks like Brentford will be going strong. Their highest possible position is 8th, which again is a Conference League potential position there. So strong lineup, strong team, and we're expecting pretty much the same as we've seen every week from Brentford. They've been pretty easy to predict in recent game weeks. So I'm going to go for the exact same lineup here again. Maybe some minutes for Igor Thiago off the bench is a possibility. Maybe Sharda gets the early sub there, but I think Sharda will start if you do have him in your FPL team. Wow, that is all 20 teams, press conference notes, and predicted lineups, guys. We still have a little bit more to talk about, guys, but if you wouldn't mind leaving a like on the video, that would be massively appreciated for the effort that has gone into this video to try and help you guys out. And also, guys, last week to enter the Sleeper League that I am running, the Predictor League, just got to predict those results. I've left a link in the top of the description for you guys, and for those of you who have been competing this season, we will be giving out the season prizes very, very shortly. You're just going to get past one more game week 38. Okay, so Rob T on Twitter, massive shout out to all of the work he has done throughout this season. I think we all owe him a beer or a coffee, depending on what he prefers. But here are the final goal and clean sheet projections according to the bookmakers odds, converted for you guys to make things easier for your FPL decision. So Liverpool, Bournemouth, Newcastle, and Arsenal all have the highest projected goals for this game week, with a decent chunk of goals we're expecting from each of those teams. Brighton and Man City also pretty high up there as well. In terms of those clean sheet odds, Newcastle leading the line here, 44% of chance of a clean sheet, with Bournemouth and Arsenal each at 42%. Just behind them, the likes of Liverpool, Man City, Aston Villa, and Chelsea for those clean sheet odds as well. And everyone below that, really, the odds are pretty low. The chances are pretty low of getting a clean sheet. But hey, I guess you never know. Football is a strange game. But generally, we see around a 20-25% increase in goals in game week 38 when compared to the other game weeks across the season. So clean sheets are going to be more difficult to come by, and we'll probably be looking at teams like Newcastle, Man City, Aston Villa, Chelsea. These teams that need to just keep a clean sheet and score one goal in order to achieve their goals for the season. That is the kind of team I'd be expecting clean sheets from. But yeah, Newcastle leading the line there. And not too many goals expected from the likes of, you know, Nottingham Forest, Manchester United, Fulham, even Crystal Palace. Just one projected goal here. I'm not sure if I believe that one or not. So if you are invested in these kind of attacks, that might be some kind of warning. This is what the bookmakers are saying, guys, though, not me. I actually think Crystal Palace could get a goal or two against Liverpool, who obviously are on the beach right now. I know it works both ways. I think both of those teams are going to score some goals. Looking through the top projected goal scorers here as well. And by the way, guys, just as a note here, we're looking at their goal share compared to the total projected goals for each team. So the goal share is season long. So if a player like Salah hasn't been scoring as many goals recently, maybe that does play into these kind of projections. And you can adjust this based on your own opinions. But Salah is number one. He has got a 0.84 projected goal for this game week. Isak is up here, provided he starts, 0.79 projected goals. We also see Haaland up here as well. Wilson, if he starts, is going to do quite well. But interestingly, I know a lot of people are looking at Evan Nilsson, 0.63 projected goals against Leicester, but we actually see Danny Welbeck at 0.66 projected goals against Spurs. So for that cheap forward slot, if you're looking for that new cheap forward, it actually looks like Danny Welbeck's projections are slightly higher. We also see Kai Havertz in here if he starts, but there is a huge risk attached there. Saka, Watkins, Jota are here as well. The likes of Kluivert has some rotation risk, but if he starts, could be good against Leicester. Bowen looks nice here, secure for minutes. I think Luis Diaz looks good as well with his minute security. And then going down the list, we see players like Marmoush, Wissa, Wood, and Burmo a little bit lower down on the list as well. But you guys can pause the video and look through this list at your own leisure. I just wanted to highlight a couple of players there for you, which could be a little bit interesting. But guys, this is my final video before the end of the season. And I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who has been watching throughout the year. Guys, I know it hasn't been my best season from an FPL perspective, but from a content perspective, I'm pretty proud of what we've done this season. I think we've put out some really good videos, really helpful videos. And I really, really do hope they have been helping you guys so much. So I genuinely am wishing all of you the best of luck going into Game Week 38. It might not be my season, but for a lot of you guys, you are still really competing to win those mini leagues, finish with a really strong rank. And I think you guys are going to smash it. So best of luck, guys. Truly, truly. And once again, thank you so much for another brilliant season making FPL content. Look, the FPL rank's not there, but the content I'm really happy with. And I'm so grateful for all of your support and kind messages over the last few days. You guys allow me to do my dream job, which is to make YouTube videos talking about a game that I absolutely love. So you guys are real ones. You guys are absolute legends for that. So thank you for the continued support. And I really, really hope to see you again in the next season, where I'm really going to be going for comeback season, but also trying to up my game consistently when it comes to content, providing you guys information in the most accessible way possible. So hopefully we can do that as well. But guys, we will be back for a mega stream tomorrow on Deadline Stream. We're going to be streaming for several hours before deadline. So tune in, make sure you are subscribed, notifications on, and we will be live all the way up until deadline. I will also try and answer as many questions in the comments as possible. So if you've got a comment, you've got a question, you've got anything you think I can help with, let me know in the comment section. I will do my best to help you guys out. Leave a like before you go. I will hopefully see you on tomorrow's stream, and feel free to check out another video in the meantime, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.